On this week's episode, returning the amazing, the powerful Dr. David Bell, founder of Beyond Chiropractic. Dr. David Bell.
Jesse.
Welcome back.
It's good to see you.
Man, it's been about a year. So
yeah, I know. Right?
Lots has changed and so much for the better.
Changed. For sure, definitely.
I wanted to get you back on the show because you're an amazing human being. You're a great thought leader when it comes to health and wellness and evolving the mind and evolving the body. And I think you have a ton of value to add. So I wanted to get you back on here and just take it away, man. So where have you been in the last year? What's changed for you, your practice?
Right. Yeah. Well, one, I appreciate all that. It was kind words. So thank you so much. And I'm excited to be here. So in the last year, I'll tell you, we've really come a long way in the practice, right? Just a short period of time, but our clinical expertise and just our vision and the message we're trying to create for the practice has really improved. We're really starting to see that clearer now than ever before. Personally, doing a lot more for myself too, kind of getting more into alignment and authenticity with myself and my beliefs, with the way that I move my body and the things that I'm doing for my personal mindset. And things of that nature. So I've really been trying to hone into those things, right? Because I definitely want to be in a practice as you preach kind of place, right?
Sure.
I want to be able to be that source. So when I'm talking to practice members, or I'm talking to anybody really, to help say, oh, how do you do it? I'm like, well, there's good days and there's bad days, and this is the way I try to keep on track, right? That keeps me sane in a sense. And I do most of it for me. It's interesting, I realized, even with my practice, that for a time I actually did it, I was thinking to myself, who am I doing this for?
Yep.
Am I doing this to show my folks that I can run my own business? Am I doing this for my wife and my family, just to give them, make sure I can support them? And I think those are good things and they're nice, but at the same time I was like, what's my true motivation for this? It's what is it bringing to me so that I can bring to others, right? And I think that's where I had to go. I had to reset on the self-love, on the focusing on how I kind of protect my energy and my well-being so that I could be better for others. Not just my family, but for everyone that walks in my door.
Fit to serve everybody.
You got it. Yep. That's exactly it. So
what was it that brought about this paradigm shift or this moment of contemplation, internal introspection to say, we talk about journaling, we talk about some other things that you've done with your vision planning, but what was it that really kind of turned the tables of that paradigm shift for you?
Believe it or not, it was, I was listening to Jim Rohn. Yeah. And listening to him on a YouTube video, right? And I just kind of was starting to get into this rhythm where it's like, I realized I wasn't being intentional. Yep. I wasn't really taking the bull by the horns and saying, what do I want my life to look like? And as I said, my mentor says, if you're not defining winning, someone else is defining it for you, right? And so that's really where I had to start to say is what does it look like for me? Does it look like me getting up at a certain time? And that might not be the case for everybody, right? I'm not saying that the 5:30 club is for everybody. And at the same time, it's about what you're doing when you get up then too, or when you get up in the morning. How are you setting the day? And and so journaling has played a big role there. And
let's touch on journaling. Yeah. There's a lot of power if you're doing it correctly. Obviously, we go back to talking about training. We're both big into training for health, for wellness, for life, to be a standard, so to speak. Right. In your business, it's huge for you to come across as a touch point for health and wellness, because that's what you're offering. You're offering people health, wellness, full life, alignment. We'll talk about those things. Right. But with the journaling, we go back talking about training. It's a habit. It's discipline. We talk about those things where those days you don't want to get out and work out or train, swing the kettlebells. Now you're into the maces, the club maces, we'll talk about. But a lot of times you don't have motivation, and so you have to have the discipline just to show up. And a lot of times once you get the body moving, it's habit, you get into it, the endorphins start rolling. So what's the process look like for getting into journaling, and what does your journaling look like day to day? Well,
so that's so interesting. So I held a class a while back called The Benefits of Journaling. It was because it was inspired by my recent emergence with journaling. So, and really, I started just by kind of listening to people talk. I was listening to motivation and things like that, and I would jot that stuff down. There's just some quotes maybe I enjoyed that day. And finally, it started to develop into this habit where all of a sudden, I opened the book and I started talking to myself, and I thought, I'm going to just write down these thoughts right now and see where this takes me, right? Well, what am I thinking today? Why am I thinking like that? And how's this day starting? And then I started to read other things and take into consideration things like, of course, gratitudes is always a big one for journaling. I love a little gratitude. And gratitudes, I always say to people when I talk, they're like, well, oh yeah, I'm doing my gratitudes. I say, but you want to make sure you internalize that. Feel that.
Yep.
And kind of let yourself have an emotional response to gratitude. Like this awe of the fact that I have a roof over my head today, or this ballpoint pen just writes so beautifully, right?
Yeah.
It's a little silly, but at the same time,
it
really helps kind of bring perspective into things. And when you really emotionally feel it, even when you're visioning your future, feel what it feels like to already be in that place, right? And that starts to shift it. Emotion that you have with it. It's not just, I'm crying or I'm angry or something like that, but just kind of feeling that in your body shifts the cells, turns the body on. And I always cut off the E and put a little equal signs that E equals motion, right? So emotion is energy in motion, right? And so as you experience that and you allow yourself to experience a breadth of emotion, good days and bad, right? There are days I wake up and I write in the journal and I'm suffering today. Sometimes I feel like I'm not going anywhere or something like that. And I just admit that to myself. And then I say, and I choose something different. I choose to see it differently, or choose to love myself more today and be patient,
I think there was a gentleman you mentioned. Was it Brendan Bouchard? Is that his name?
Brendan Bouchard. Yep.
High Performance Habits?
High Performance Habits. So I've been following a little bit of his stuff.
Yep.
And he's got a few things. He says, it wasn't necessarily, he said journaling specifically, but he said that what you're asking yourself, right? High performers ask themselves specific questions that help them stay at that level.
What are some that you've heard?
What are you excited for today?
Okay.
What are you looking forward to, right? What's got you up, right? What purpose today? What or who might stress you out or kind of stand in your way of achieving goals today? Right. Yeah. Putting yourself in that mindset, and how can you approach that from a perspective of my higher self, right? So how can you be compassionate maybe, or think about how it's maybe not a problem, but it's a solution, right? Or it's helping to test us or put us in a certain place and build us, right? And then who can I thank? Who can I thank or gift, or who can I, appreciate on today, right? And I think that's a big thing. I always love saying to people how much I appreciate them, right? It's something I enjoy. It's just it just comes out naturally now. I didn't even think about it until all of a sudden I'm like, man, I just love and appreciate this person. And I'll just tell them. They might think I'm, a little crazy sometimes, but I don't mind, It's like, if that's what they, remember me for, is that crazy guy who says he appreciates me, then that's great.
Leaving the world a better place, helping people, and you're putting yourself in a position with the journaling, and I guess even it's almost you're planning for your day in a way where if you look at that person or that instance that may have a chance to derail you or throw you off your game, and if you already planned for it and thought about it and looked at it with a different lens, you say your higher self, and you come at it maybe with a different angle of love or optimism. Instead of looking at it as like a downer. There's even how you talk to yourself, and we talked about this before jumping on the show, was instead of saying, oh man, I have to do this today, tell yourself, I get to do this today.
Nice.
I'm alive.
Beautiful.
I'm well. There's a lot worse alternatives. I get to do this today. And even just changing your perspective allows you to attack those things differently.
That's amazing, because that's the idea of right, we're talking about the 9 to 5, got the traffic rolling here. And, there's probably people out there saying how much they hate having to drive, or all these different things, and that's a great mindset to cultivate, and find something to do during that time, right? And that helps you to shift your mindset and to say, at least I've got that job today.
That's right.
I've got this place to go, and not everyone's got that. And I make a joke, but there's and it's not really a joke, but there are people that don't have, that don't have things, right? But I'll say that to myself. I'll say, someone doesn't have this opportunity that I have, and so I should cherish it. And if I'm not maximizing it, then I'm doing them a disservice.
You're letting them down in a sense, because what would they do with it?
Right, and they might not know. They may never know, but who knows?
That's right.
As I progress and I get better, I may be able to form a nonprofit where I can start to take care of those people, because I was able to maximize where I'm at now, to have more in the future, right? And to be able to give and do more for others. And I'm not quite sure how I began to cultivate this mindset. I mean, I was raised Catholic, right? And at the same time, though, I don't know if it all stemmed from that. It just, I really feel like deep down inside, I'm just drawn to connect with people and listen to their story, whatever it be, right? And knowing how to protect my energy around that. But yeah, putting yourself in that place of gratitude is huge. And I know that's like kind of the mantra of a lot of folks too, a lot of self-help these days, but it's really something that resonates deeply with me. So.
Well, it keeps you honest. It keeps you from being bitter. It keeps you from being, in a negative headspace. If you can put yourself in a place of abundance and gratitude.
Right.
Not that you become unshakable or unbreakable, but it really makes you stronger. It makes you prepared for things. And going back to the point of, just like a pro tip for the viewers, I'll tell you that car ride, because sometimes my commute's about 30, 35 minutes from doorstep to doorstep. I try to fill that with time where I'm listening to an audiobook, because I'm not so much of a hard copy or physical book reader, but I will listen to an audiobook. I'm going through my second go-round with Can't Hurt Me, which is David Goggins' book on his life and practical ways that you can become mentally stronger. And so for me, you can tell a night and day difference in how I operate and how I attack things differently when I'm doing those things.
Gotcha.
And when I'm off my game and I'm not listening to audiobooks, whether it's business building, sales, relationships, health and wellness, there's a difference in how I operate in my day. And so I choose to have those moments where the 30, 35 minutes twice a day from home to office, office back to home, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm developing. And there's time for, Gary Vee calls it, what's he call it, escapism. Like when you want to watch a movie, and Netflix and chill, like all that stuff's cool.
Of course.
But I want to make the most of some of those times. And so I've found for me that I get a lot of growth during the car ride, and I get to learn and develop. And so that could be a tip for some folks, is if you have 20, 30 minutes, and whether it's during a workout or whether it's during a car ride that you might be dreading because of traffic, flip the script, flip your mindset, and just kind of listen and grow into something that makes you happy.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting because our commute's probably about the same now. I'm about 25 minutes from that spot, but I thought the same thing when we were buying the house where we're at now. I was like, I don't really want to make this commute. What am I going to do? And I was already podcasting and things as I drove around. And then it just right away clicked. I was like, more opportunity to grow and learn and be in a good, nice headspace when I get to the office so I can serve to the best of my ability. And so that I can be on my A game, that day. And on the way back, too. And I found now with the first couple of commutes I've made, I'm like, it's flying by, right? And of course, if I'm taking my little girl to school, we listen to her songs in the car, and we're singing and dancing and having fun, and that passes the time too. And then I always get an opportunity for myself as well. But it's, that's huge. And one of the things I know we were going to touch on was you're the average of the top 5 people you spend the most of your time with.
That's absolutely true.
And for a lot of people, people might be sitting and thinking, oh, well, I don't necessarily hang out with people who are thinking the same way I am. Well, you can use a podcast of somebody who's in that mindset as one, and count that as one of those people, right? And so starting to think about intentionally who you're listening to, who you're letting in, is important. I say, I stand guard at the doorway to my mind, right? Because I want to protect myself and preserve my energy so that I can be in a good place, right? And so even when the naysaying comes on, it's like, okay, I hear your perspective, and I'm going to look at it like this. What if we looked at it this way? So, and that kind of stuff helps you to move in that place.
It does, and I think that being mindful of, I kind of showed you a clip of something I had to put out there, but there's 2 things you could do to help yourself grow. You can be your own mechanic, and you can go to YouTube University, you can seek out thought leaders, you can listen to audiobooks, or you can have a coach and a mentor, and you align yourself with people. Specifically, it's for business, right? So if it's for business, you want to align yourself with people, if you're looking at a coach or mentor, someone who's done exactly what you're trying to do, and they've done it well. And so they can walk you down the path of pitfalls, or how to do this faster, efficiently, or stay away from something. But I think being mindful, standing guard, and letting people in that are going to help serve you, but you can help serve as well. That's the beautiful handshake, right? So if I help you, you help me. And another way to look at this too, my coach and mentor, Patrick Tucker, I'm always name dropping him because he's the man. He talks about how when you are surrounding yourself physically around people, there's also this rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is find a third of the people that you spend time with should be above you in some station of life. Health, fitness, wellness, relationships, because they can kind of coach you and guide you through relationship osmosis to kind of rise up to be to that level.
Yes.
The next third of people should be kind of where you're at, so you can share things that you're going through, family, whatever that might look like, and then kind of you have that dynamic. And then the other third of people that you're going to surround yourself with are people that are kind of just below you, but they're striving to be where you are, and you can almost like mentor and kind of help them come up to where you are.
Nice.
So if you look at it from that perspective, you're growing, you're helping other people grow. I mean, it just makes you a better human being. So.
Right. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So.
You were talking about vision planning, and you went to a trip recently to Asheville, and you went on vacation, let's call it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we did. We went on vacation. It was a time away in the woods. We got this cabin up in the national forest there, Blue Ridge Mountains.
Awesome.
And it was just a nice escape, right?
Yeah.
And was really a good recharge. So yeah, some mornings I would still get up 5:30, right? Turn a lamp on.
Even on vacation, folks, he's still hustling.
Trying, and again, having that mentor, I have a mentor that I listen to, and he says the same thing. He says, you don't have to take a break, but you can still have that time where you set aside time to be focused on what it is you're trying to achieve, still defining what winning is for you every day, in whatever way you can. And so it took some time. 5:30, woke up. I knew everyone was going to get up a little later too, and just unloaded on the pages. What does my dream practice look like? How are we helping people? What's it smell like? What's it look like? How are people being greeted?
Putting yourself there, feeling the emotions, tying the emotions to it. Yeah.
And that's something Joe Dispenza talks a lot about. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that all the time. So it was one of the things where I kind of picked that up from, and now I'm trying to practice it, right? And so being in that place and just imagining it. Imagining maybe if I had other businesses too, what do they look like? How are they impacting the world, and how are they changing?
Helps with the creative process.
Right.
And it's cathartic in a way too, because there's probably parts of you that you're not attuned to in your day-to-day life, that where if you have that time alone and that time, that kind of quiet time to kind of just put it all on paper or let your mind open up, there's things in there that'll come out that maybe you weren't thinking about, either from the subconscious or just from something you had thought of that you really didn't pay attention to. Like, that's a great idea, or maybe I can implement this in my life or in my practice that you wouldn't have if you didn't take that time for the self-care, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting because one of the things I talk a lot about with people in practice and so forth is anxiety is fear of the future, right? You've probably seen quotes that say that, right? Which is true, right? Your nervous system's ramped up and it's already fighting something that you're creating that's ahead of you, right? It's not here in the present, right? And depression is being stuck in the past, right? It's still lagging behind. It's the nervous system is in a place where it's kind of locking itself down. That believe it or not, it's hyper parasympathetic, right? It's this idea of play dead, don't move, for fear of something happening, or
frozen,
right? Exactly. And so really, it's your nervous system really doing well when you're either anxious or depressed, and it's about how do you regain control there, and create. And one of those ways is by unloading that stuff. Is like, what are my fears of the future? What does it look like? What does it look like if I don't achieve the things that I'm afraid of achieving or afraid of doing? If I don't step out and give this information, what happens otherwise, right? And then what happens if I do, right? And you start to weigh the balance. You say, well, okay, some people might not like what I have to say, or I might, take some criticism. And at the same time, I could be helping people. There could be people that are seeing this and opening up to that. So that's a great journaling exercise too. Is you're unloading things. Is like, well, I have fear of this. Why? And what is it preventing me from achieving? And I always tell people this in the practice too. Is that pain, right? This pain of whether or not we're matching our authenticity. You have to get to a place where that pain outweighs, right, the whatever you're going to achieve, right? So, the pain of staying the same, right? It has to become greater than the pain of what it's going to take for you to change or transform, right? Or live that best life, right? Whatever that looks like for you. Again, like, that's another big thing. I feel like a lot of people are caught up in like Instagram and Facebook and what everyone else's life looks like. When you tap into your authenticity, when you're living from the heart, you're going to be in a much better place, right?
That's true. From
health, wellness, and you start to look past everybody else, right? And it's not saying that you're better than, you're not as concerned about what everyone else is doing. You want to be there with them, you want to interact with them, but you're not judging your self-worth based on that, right? And so I think that's big too, and you can do that with journaling as well. Who do I really want to be? What do I want to do with this life? And one of the things I'll tell you that I love that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about all the time is like 400 trillion to one, or whatever the number is there, right?
400 million to one.
400 million to one, right? It's like
becoming human.
Right. The fact that you even exist. It's like one of the things that resonates with me so deeply, because it's like, whoa.
He says it funny. He's like, you could have been a tree. Like, it's true. Right. There's a very big chance that you shouldn't even be here.
So it's like the same thing in health and wellness when we start to shift the outcomes from fitting within a number, right, or being within the perfect limit, right, to shifting those outcomes to how's a person living their life, right? What's their measure for what makes them happy, for what they're joyful about, what they can be compassionate about, and what they can bring passion to, and are they able to move in that direction and feel like they're living, instead of living like they're dying, right? We talked about that.
Right, yeah, not truly living, and they're just kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Right, or this idea of like, oh, there's death, it's knocking on the doorstep, and we're too afraid to move now because, right, you're anxious about that, right? You're concerned that, oh, I have a heart palpitation today, and that's a problem, right? Or you could be just overly, ramped up about work or something you haven't spoken about or that you're not interacting with. Maybe you need to get up and move, right? Dance, hike, bike, whatever.
Change your state.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's a lot of things I'm learning now in practice as well, is that it's not always about the number. It's about a self-perceived sense of who I am, where I am going, and what I'm achieving in my life. And it could be as little as bringing home a good living and just being in a good place financially. You don't have to make $1 million, but being able to take care of your needs and then the needs of your family, or, again, then you can start to step past and start to impact others if you so choose, right? But you want to be connecting to your health and wellness in that perspective, I think, more than just whether or not I made the checkup, right?
Yep. So you're really big in your practice helping your clients shift their mentalities, and obviously, being a doctor of chiropractic, there is a lot of physical, but there's also a lot of like emotional that comes from it, a lot of mental work, and you're actually helping clients. You're always working on shifting your consciousness and things like this, but also your clients, you can help them shift their consciousness too,
right.
just getting from one place to another. Can you speak a little bit to some of the there was a gentleman, you don't have to say the specific name, but how he went from one place to another and how his thoughts have changed about relationships and himself, and just talk about what that's done for your clients.
That's perfect, patients. Well, and this gentleman in particular came to us about 2 years ago. He's been with us for a long time now, but he came and he had excruciating back pain, 2 failed surgeries, and thought he was going to have to get neck surgery, right? He was just
scary stuff.
And he kind of had worked himself up into a tizzy about it, really. Like, he had really become over anxious about it. And we started working with him. He started to see a shift in his back within the first couple weeks of care. And then as he started to progress, right, he was having great days, getting up off the table saying, man, I just feel straighter, I feel like I have more energy, right? It was like music to my ears. I'm like, awesome, high five, let's get more of that. And it was cool because I started to see how he had this upward trajectory in health, right? And I always talk to people about this. You're going up, 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 things feel great, you have a change in the stimulus, right? You're doing something different. And then all of a sudden, you have a dip. And so I started to notice it, and this is where I gained a lot of the clinical experience with just this one client, really. And I'm starting to see it in others too, but because of the length of time he's been with us, these ups and downs, these ebbs and flows in his health and wellness. But each time I feel like coming up to a higher spot and then dipping a little bit and coming back up, right? But he, at one point, he was talking at a reassessment about his marriage and just how he had realized, like, the communication was lost and was something he was trying to get back, and he hadn't really thought about it before and how that could be impacting his health. And then that
he was almost done, wasn't he? Like, in his mind, he was thinking if he should even continue that.
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah, he was definitely at a point where he wasn't sure. And then he's today, the past couple weeks, had some things going on with blood pressure and stuff like that. So I could see where, again, that like falter in the health look, was. Like I said, he went on vacation, came back, they rechecked his blood pressure, and he had normalized.
Amazing.
Right? So it kind of shows you, like, there is a huge connection to that mental health and how we care for ourselves, and if we take a break or not. We might need to get away. Side note, when Dr. Vanessa was having problems with her wrist, when we went away to Asheville, she just chilled out. She stopped lifting for a little bit just to let it relax, and we adjusted and looked at it and things like that. But she came back from that trip rejuvenated, and the wrist hasn't been an issue since.
Isn't that amazing?
And she attributes it directly to being away and getting the escape and being outdoors, right? Breathing in some clean air and things. And so it's really interesting to see the way that our environment and the way we perceive our environment and all these different things really play a role in health and wellness. And that's all happening through the nervous system, right? So, and that's one of the things that this gentleman's starting to realize too, is like he realized, he saw the correlation immediately. He went away, saw the improvement in blood pressure, and it's been good since then, right? Good. And he even was talking about how now he's in a place with his wife where he realized a lot of the things going on with her were stemming from her kids and the way she was interacting with them, and how he's now in a place where he's feeling more compassion for her in regards to that and seeing her from a different light. And I'm just like, whoa. I was like, you're like right out of the case study, right?
Amazing.
And I'm like, these are the kind of things I expect people to experience. I don't necessarily say that in the beginning. Sure. Right? Because people come in and say...
You don't want to set the standard too high in case they don't right away.
Exactly, right? It takes time. This guy's been 2 years, right? Yeah. And now he's saying these things. It's like amazing, right?
That's awesome. How often is he like how often are you seeing him? Or seeing him?
Yeah, well, he chose to continue to come in 2 times a week. Okay. Right, and pretty consistently. So
good frequency.
Yeah, I mean, and I talked to him about cutting back a little bit, and he even said, "No, I think I want to keep coming in this way." And so we talk about it like clinically. I always get input both ways, right? Even if someone says, "Well, hey, it's not for me anymore." Okay. Well, when it is, you come on back.
Door's always open.
Right,
we
exactly.
Love you, you're welcome. Yeah.
Right, because my whole thing at the end of the day is I want to help people, and if I can help you get out of some of the basic musculoskeletal things too, which we can do, and you're not there for the consciousness shift, and you're not experiencing that, you don't have to be. Sure. Right, but when you're out of that pain or those things aren't interacting with you the same way, right? Your body's not in that same place. You're going to already be doing more, right? And if you stick around, there's more to get, but at the same time. Right. It's what we call really an evidence-based way of practicing, and that's we've got some research that says that this is what's going to happen, but we're also communicating with the practice member and what are they looking for and what do they need and things like that. So it's a nice combination there, and then our clinical experience, right, all comes together as a head.
And you're also going a step further in your practice. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to help people and physically and mentally, emotionally leave them better than you found them. That's the whole deal. Yeah. But you're also doing other pretty unique and cool things that I think that are standing out, like these community type events where you're bringing different groups of people in for different things. If you want to talk about, share those.
You got it. Yeah. So one of the things we think is important is to create that community, and to provide value in places where people might not normally get it. And for people who don't necessarily want to interact with the practice, they don't have to, right? But they can also gain from some of these classes. Yep. So one was the benefits of journaling. That was an in-house class, and that was, again, spawned more from like my reinvigorated place of journaling and wanting to know more and
involve more. And you gave the attendees journals. I did.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
That's awesome.
And when we're giving those out to practice members and stuff too, really and things, cool. And because I think that's part of self-awareness, right? If you can really start to be honest with yourself and you're writing it down, and you say, "This is what's causing me problems in my life," you can start to shift that, right? Yeah. And we have to look at that, right? It's not easy to look at. It's not fun.
It can be hard for some people sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's hard for a lot of us. It's even hard for me some days. I'm 30, 31, going to be 32, and sometimes I'm like, I should be in a different place than I am right now. And at the same time, right, there's that should, and I have to shift that, to gratitude for where I am and the opportunity to know that there is more coming and just continue to work. But so benefits of journaling, we had food as medicine. So we brought in someone who was certified in food as medicine, telling people how they can eat and juice and different things like that.
Was that tied into gut health at all? Was that?
Yeah, there was some talk on gut health because the gut is the second brain, right? So it's producing a lot of your serotonin, right? Things with depression. There's imbalances with that can cause depression.
Most disease starts in the gut.
You got it. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why people are being a lot more present about their food, where they're getting their food, where their food's coming from, right? Knowing how it's processed, right? Because if not only are we affected physically and we're affected mentally, emotionally, well, so is your food.
That's right.
It all connects. So that's really important, right? Is like getting that right and having your food right. And one of the things I like to focus on for that too is most people coming in, if somebody comes in, they're overweight or they know their diet's bad, most people know. Yeah. It's not a matter of like the type of doctoring I want to be doing is Let's get you to a place where you're making those choices for change, not me saying you have to.
Sure.
Right? And what it looks like for you is going to be different, and we want to help to cultivate that, right? And so that's why bringing some of these classes in helps people to see different things, right? Same thing with like financial health, right? Bringing in a class where people can learn how to take care of themselves financially, because that's a huge area of stress.
Absolutely.
If you're thinking about that, you're thinking about what's going to happen. If you've got investments, the market's going to go up, it's going to go down. Your body's producing stress chemicals, and it's freaking out.
Yep.
And in today's day and age, those things are happening everywhere. They're happening when you're driving. The tiger is always there today.
It's just a different kind of tiger.
You got it.
Yep.
And so we have to evolve, right? We have to evolve mentally and emotionally more than we ever had to physically now, right? And even physically, right? Sitting is the new smoking, right? And it's
That's what they're saying,
right? So you went from being highly active to being completely sedentary, and now we need to get back to being active again, right?
Yep.
So that's why people go to the gym, or and I always tell people that, get out and hike and bike, or do something different there.
Get out in nature.
Yeah, whatever resonates. Again,
this year's been really big for me to make sure I'm outside with a lot of my training.
There you go. Yeah,
running, doing stuff out back. I'll get my workouts. If I'm not running, I run 3 days a week, and I train strength conditioning and some cardio the other 3 days. And those days will look like I'll get out in the backyard by the pool and I'll do some jump rope 20-30 minutes to warm up, but I'm doing it in the sun, I'm doing it outside, I'm getting that breath of fresh air. And I'll tell you, ever since I've started running, which was January of this year, and then doing that working out, I had since I was 18 until last year, I'll be 38, so for 20 years I've had like severe year-round allergies.
Gotcha.
To different things. And up until like 2 months ago, I've pretty much escaped almost all of my allergies. And I don't know if it's because I told my body, screw you, you're going to be in the outside, and you're going to be dealing with this.
Yeah.
And like when you're running, you're breathing everything in. And so I don't know if it being outside or some dietary changes or a combination of both, but I have limited to no allergies when I used to have year-round allergies. So there's just these weird things that just work.
You know, it's profound that you say that, because that's one of the things that I believe that we need to be doing more of is that when you're having the allergies and you're having the reaction, now of course you don't want to get to the point where you can't breathe, right, and things like that. But these things where your nose starts to get stuffy and like you can tell they're pesky, but they're not like life threatening, right? Where allow your body to go through that. Allow the immune system to activate. Have the fever. Get the postnasal. All these different things, and allow that stuff to happen to you, and the body will upgrade. Right? It's upgrading through fever. It's that's changing the cells, and it's fever when you heat the body up, you break down the DNA within the cells, and they're able to change and take on new information and things like that. So they're definitely critical. So when you stop that, you're maintaining stability. Well, guess what? You never learn, grow, or evolve from that, right? And it's the same thing in anything you do. Same thing as your training, right? If you never go up in weight, you stay the same, and your body never gets to that place, right? Same thing with your food. If you're constantly eating the same foods, right, and you might develop allergies to those kind of things, or different things like that. So, the body's smart.
Extremely smart.
And so I think we're getting back to a place where that's what people are starting to understand. And they're starting to say, hey, I am the doctor.
Yep.
My body, and when I'm in tune with my body, it's going to tell me what I need and where I need to go right now. So
I love that you mentioned that we are evolving in so many ways, and a lot of the I guess like the common consciousness of society has changed to where people are becoming healthier in a lot of ways, and they're focusing on, we talked about this off air. I think it was either Aristotle or Socrates, but they were talking about how citizens back in the day in Greece, like he would say it would be a shame for a citizen to not know the capability and the beauty of their body. Training and growing and learning and also mind development, like all these things that the body's capable of, and we're just scratching the surface of human capabilities and performance. And I go back to Goggins on this because he says that we have a governor, and that governor says that we only put out at 40% of our normal or our capability.
Right.
And so if we're only putting out at 40% in all aspects of life, imagine how much more we could love life and love business and relationships and health and wellness. And so you've recently, I guess in the last year, changed your training protocol and how you stay fit.
Yeah.
And you went from strength training and powerlifting, and you were doing very well there from the three main exercises that you do there with the squat, the deadlift, and the bench press, and you were excelling there.
Right.
But you found that either you were getting burnt out or the body wasn't responding, and you've changed your protocol to where my heart's at, which is more functional and things like this. So if you could talk about how that's changed for you and what it looks like and what the benefits you've seen so far.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because like a lot of times people ask like, where did that motivation come from, or what happened there, and what were the fears around changing all that. And I'll tell you, I get the work that I do. So that was the kind of thing, is like creating that deeper sense of authenticity within me. I could feel this like pull. It literally was like pulling at my heart that said, I'm really tired of just doing the squat, bench, deadlift right now. And I would walk into the gym at 6 a.m. and I'd look at the bar and I'd be like, I could start to feel my body ache, right? And it wasn't just from the fact that I lifted the day before. I could tell it was different, right? And that's that internalized awareness that I'm trying to produce, right? Sure. And I thought to myself, probably a few months before that, maybe I should switch over this functional stuff. Talk to Mario over there at the gym and just make the switch. I kept getting that pull, and finally one day I just did it. I just said, cold turkey, let's go. Kettlebell training, functional work.
I want the folks to know how, not to cut you off, but how important this is and how big and a monumental move, because you weren't just like training every day. Like this was your life. Like you were. Yeah,
we're coaching powerlifting. I was in powerlifting scene. I still am, but not
refereeing powerlifting.
Yeah, not in the same way.
In it, you were like not just like a
casual, right?
Yeah, you were like all in.
Yeah, we were building athletes.
So this is a big change.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge.
So you changed now from that to the functional movement. What did that look like, the functional training?
So just the mobility right off the bat, right? You're coming in and we were doing a lot of animal mobility, right? Yep. Moving your body different ways, twisting and turning. And it's cool because as someone who focuses on the spine and the wellness and the health of the spine, I could just feel my spine opening up, the flexibility of it self-adjusting and correcting on its own, right? Following some care and being in my own protocol, really. Yep. But then moving and all of a sudden feeling aspects of myself improve, my ankle mobility starting to improve because I took the shoes away and all these different things.
Oh yeah, train without shoes as much as possible.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, moving through those things, really, I was like, wow, this is a whole new way of moving my body. I've never really done this stuff before. It's awesome. And that was part of the motivation, was saying, I want to jump high, right? I want to run fast. I want to just be able to say, hey, you want to go chuck this football? Let's do that. Let's play Frisbee,
Fit for service is what it's called, just to do anything.
You got it.
Well.
Right. Yeah. And come from an athletic background, like I was never like the top dog, but I was the Rudy, really, but I always tried to work hard, right? Got it, right?
I can see that.
Yeah. So, and the kettlebell focus, I've always known kettlebells. Yep. I read a lot of Pavel, who's a kettlebell master. You got it. Yep. And he. You could just the strength that it builds, and I'm finding it now. I'm noticing better activation in areas than before, and nobody's saying like this area is not activating properly for you, right? Nobody's assessing it like that. I can just tell from years of training. All of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, I'm engaging my lats differently, and oh wow, I got some weakness here, and I'm engaging glutes or the thigh better, and things like that.
You're operating differently. You're moving differently. Your body is handling differently. Your probably even posture is different. I mean, it's just there's so many different things you can do with it. Right. Talk about some of the implements you've incorporated with, like the mace.
Oh yeah. So I started a lot with kettlebell. It was like double kettlebell squatting, clean and jerks, snatches. I've been really trying to perfect the snatch and the tactical snatch, which is where you're switching mid-hand and things like that. So that's all really been good, and I can just feel the core improving there. And then now the maces, they're starting to bring the maces into some of the classes, and I had already asked the instructor beforehand, how can I start to learn the mace, and he gave me some things to start to prepare. We're not really spinning it yet overhead or anything, but it's the kind of thing where you're engaging, you're actively controlling the mace versus it kind of just being in your arms and your hands. Right. You're squatting with it, you're lunging with it, you're switching hands constantly.
Overhead shoulder mobility.
You got it. Yeah.
Some lat work.
So things like that, and so that'll be cool to get more into that, because the guys at that gym are all into that right now. It's like the instructors over there are doing all the mace work, and so it's cool, and it looks like a lot of fun. And
there's a gentleman I follow, and his movement that he's pushing, Aubrey Marcus, and his company On Academy down in Austin, Texas, and he is really big, and his company's really big on functional movement and being prepared for life, and he's big on evolution of mind and body, and his implements have been steel maces and clubs, and they go back to ancestral times where a lot of warriors would train with these things. They would use these things in battle, but they would also train with them too, and just the difference it can make in your body from flexibility to full strength, having a full body strength versus just being focused on one area. It's incredible what it can do for you.
I think it's like kind of like ballistic training a little bit, right? It's like you've got this mace, so you've got all the weight on one end and you're swinging it around, and now think about if you're just moving and you move wrong, instead of the body being something where you're like, oh, I moved wrong, I'm stuck, because I don't ever move, right? Because I don't ever move my body dynamically, right? To now being able to take that stuff, right? Or I made that slip and caught myself. Well, those things have been happening, especially I just moved into a house, right? So we're doing all that kind of stuff, but functionally, I was able to lift, move, ply, move my body and things. Like even just moving in and having to lift things and, kind of, things get awkward when you're trying to fill a moving truck and then unload a moving truck. But my body really felt prepared. I was sore afterwards, of course.
Sure.
Like my body definitely knew it had worked.
It's a lot of work.
But at the same time, we were lifting a lot of heavy stuff. I mean, I had help, but I definitely, I'm not worse for wear because of it, right? I'm not held up for the next few days. So it's like, I'm ready to go today. Monday morning, we were moving all weekend. It's like, I'm ready. I'm fired up.
And crazy thing about Dr. David and his family moving.
I know.
It was the coolest thing this morning before we jumped on the podcast. So he comes in, we start talking about things and just connecting, and he talks about his recent move, and I was like, yeah, so where'd you move? And he's like, well, I moved over by Antioch Road, and I'm like, well, first of all, I think he said Powder Springs, which is where I live. And I was like, well, I live in Powder Springs. And he's like, yeah, we're close to this area of Powder Springs. I'm like, well, we are too. He's like, we're right off of Antioch Road. I'm like, well, I am too. That's where I do a lot of my running. And he goes, well, yeah, he said something about Armour Drive. I'm like, I live on Armour Drive. So one of my coolest business friends and friends in life ends up moving to the same street down the hill without us even knowing. So
even knowing.
Now we just became official best friends. So now he's going to be over at the house. We'll be training and swimming and hanging out with the family and grilling out. So
man,
what a small world.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to running on Antioch there. I got to get back into more running. I'm typically a sprinter, but if we keep it to 3.5, I'm good. That 5K, I'm right in there.
We'll do 5Ks with me and we'll sprint with you. So we'll incorporate that.
Nice.
So awesome. So welcome, neighbor. So
it's amazing. Serendipity,
for sure.
It's like the universe pulling people together. It's really interesting, right? Because the fact that happened, it's so by chance, but then again, maybe not.
There's potentially a reason for it.
I always look past chance, because I don't think anything's really chance, right? I think that we're intentionally creating things, and if we're not, then the chance looks a little more like chance, and it looks more like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me, versus, wow, that happened, oh my gosh, I'm cultivating that life, and it's amazing that I'm just getting closer to people who I really want to be close to, right?
And likewise.
People that are motivating me and moving me. So
that's awesome. We're neighbors now. We're going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
We're going to make excuses to hang out.
Man.
You need some.
I'm excited.
You need some. I don't know.
You got the mustard? You got mustard?
Right. We got a bunch of mint. So if you need mint, you come over and grab it whenever you need it.
Oh, what? Hey, you're watching the football game. Hey, you know what? I just dropped the mustard off. I'm going to stay over and watch the game for a little bit.
There's going to be a lot of that to come. Man, I'm proud of you. I'm glad to see that life, your personal life, business life, health and wellness, relationships are evolving. That's what it's all about. Someone once said that if your life is the same as it was last year, you should focus on getting better at things. And so I think year over year, we've both grown, we've both developed in a lot of different ways, and I'm happy to see where you're at. So. What is it that you want to leave for the folks? And go home message, anything practical they could take back that they can implement in their lives, health, wellness, business, life, that can help them?
For sure. I think one of the biggest things, from the perspective of a health professional is that you should be expecting more from your health professionals in general. You should expect more from your life. Because you're worth more, right? Again, that 400 million to one. The fact is that despite how many people there are in this world, each person does have this huge capacity, right? And I think that tapping into that is critical for our health and wellness. Trying to be aware of ourselves and how we're interacting in the world is numero uno for me, right?
I agree.
And that the shape, position, tension, tone of your spine is in direct relation to the shape, position, tension, and tone of your life, right?
So if your life is out of balance, maybe your body's out of balance.
You got it, or vice versa. If your body's out of balance, your life might be out of balance, right? That the internal integrity is going to be a direct reflection of that external integrity, right? Are things going right or wrong, and so forth. So I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for me, that your body's smart. It's smarter than a smartphone, smarter than Google even, despite those places being great for sources of information.
Sure.
But when you can internalize and you can live from the heart, that's critical.
That's awesome. That's huge. Man, always a pleasure. So if people want to find out more about you, your practice, what you're doing in the world, how can they get in touch with you?
Gotcha. You can find me, I am on Instagram, Facebook, Dr. David Bell on Facebook, Dr. D Bell on Instagram, Beyond Chiro ATL on Instagram and Facebook. And there's going to be a lot more to come because I'm starting to grow into that space of saying that, hey, I've got too much information to be sitting on the sidelines now, and
time to share it.
Yeah, we want to bring it out. So definitely tune into us there. We're trying to share more and hopefully bring some value and help people to take their health, their wellness, and their life to infinity and beyond is what I like to say. Seriously, I couldn't help it. It just was like a perfect segue.
It's the perfect segue for Beyond Chiropractic. Well, moving beyond all things to get better, that's Dr. David Bell, the mighty, the powerful. I am Jesse T. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and catch us on next week's episode. Take care.